प्रणाम सर। सर इधर आइए।
सर को तो एक बार फोन से ये कर देना, कहीं जुड़ेंगे तो ये होगा। हेलो।
हेलो, हाँ जी। हेलो, हाँ जी।
हाँ हेलो।
हाँ जी सर।
नमस्कार सर।
हाँ जी, नमस्कार सर। सॉरी सर, मैं माफी चाहूंगा, थोड़ी देर लेट हो गया मैं।
खैर आप आज के कैंडिडेट हैं सुनील कुमार गुप्ता,
हाँ जी।
जिनके सुपरवाइजर हैं मोहम्मद हसन जाफरी साहब, और इनका टॉपिक है पबिंग फियर ऑफ मिसिंग आउट, लोनलीनेस, रिलेशनशिप एक्शन, सेल्फ एस्टीम एंड रेसिलियंस एमोंग द एडोलेसेंट। आप आज के एक्सटर्नल एग्जामिनर हैं प्रोफेसर राकेश कुमार बेहमानी साहब, पटना यूनिवर्सिटी, साइकोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट में आपका स्वागत है।
थैंक यू वेरी मच सर।
आप इसके पहले 5 भाइभा ले चुके हैं मेरे कार्यकाल में। यह डिपार्टमेंट का 318वां पीएचडी भाइभा आज होने जा रहा है। आप बेमानी साहब, आपने कई एक पीएचडी शोधार्थियों का मार्गदर्शन किया है। आप शोध कार्य राष्ट्रीय और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय जर्नल में आपके प्रकाशित हुए हैं। कई प्रशासनिक जिम्मेदारियां भी आपने निभाई है। आप ये बालक छात्रावास के मुख्य वार्डन के रूप में अभी कार्यरत हैं। आप अंग्रेजी एवं विदेशी भाषा विभाग के अध्यक्ष के रूप में भी योगदान दे रहे हैं। काउंसलिंग और वेल बीइंग केंद्र के एसोसिएट डायरेक्टर भी आप हैं, जहां वे मानसिक स्वास्थ्य जागरूकता और समर्थन को बढ़ावा देने में महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभा रहे हैं। प्रोफेसर राकेश कुमार बेहमानी साहब की विद्वता, शोध कार्यों और प्रशासनिक अनुभव के कारण ही आप गुरु जम्बेश्वर विज्ञान और प्रौद्योगिकी विश्वविद्यालय हिसार के एक महत्वपूर्ण स्तंभ हैं। आप छात्रों के कल्याण और मानसिक स्वास्थ्य को बढ़ावा देने में लगातार अपने योगदान दे रहे हैं। आप विश्वविद्यालय में शिक्षण और अनुसंधान के क्षेत्र में अपनी अमूल्य सेवाएं प्रदान कर रहे हैं। सर, आपका आज मनोविज्ञान विभाग में स्वागत है। आपका आदेश हो तो इन्हें सुनील कुमार गुप्ता जी को मैं अपना ये शोध प्रेजेंटेशन के लिए आप आदेश दें तो मैं इन्हें बोलूं।
प्लीज सर, शुरू करें, वाइवा शुरू करें। सुनील
बोलिए। सुनील बाबू।
बेटा, इंट्रोडक्शन और रिव्यू आप ब्रीफ में, काफी ब्रीफ में करिएगा, रिव्यू मत पढ़िएगा। इंट्रोडक्शन पढ़िएगा और उसके बाद अपनी मेथड पे और फिर रिजल्ट डिस्कशन पे आइएगा, ठीक है?
कुछ बोल रहा है।
हेलो, हाँ जी, हाँ जी, ठीक है, शुरू करें।
Pranam, सबको नमस्कार. A very good afternoon to everyone present here. My deep sense of gratitude to Honorable Head of the Department, Patna University, Shiv Sagar Sir, my external examiner, Professor Behmani Sir, my supervisor and guide, Jaffrey Sir, all the distinguished professors present here, and the members of the Departmental Research Council, myself, Sunil Kumar Gupta, presenting the thesis in front of all of you with the help of this PowerPoint presentation. The topic is phubbing, fear of missing out, loneliness, relationship satisfaction, self-esteem, and resilience among the adolescents. So this is the outline that we are going to follow in our presentation, starting with introduction, followed by objectives, hypothesis, methodology, results, conclusion, limitations, and finally, direction for future research. So we all know that we are living in the era of 21st century, and apparently this is the third decade. And the advent of IT has revolutionized the social and emotional behavioral pattern of everyone, including adolescents, which are at the verge of revolutionary changes. And we have been knowing this fact that internet and smartphone overuse has become a growing concern. Adolescents not only spend significant time online for communication, entertainment, and information, but for other academic and co-academic uses also. We know that phubbing, it's a new term which has been coined 13 years back in Australia during a marketing advertisement company. Basically, it is the new word which has been made using two different words, that is phone plus snubbing. That means ignoring the presence of someone in a social situation and being engaged in simply using the phone. That is called phubbing. We know that a lot of social media applications like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, which nowadays is called as X, Snapchat, and so many other applications are relevant in the lives of adolescents. We know that this constant connectivity reshapes their social habits, and often they prioritize virtual communication over real life interactions, which is apparently changing their social dynamics. We have been knowing this fact that the adolescents experience heightened pressure to stay digitally visible and updated, and this digital interactions increasingly substitute for authentic social bonding. That means instead of establishing real life interpersonal connections, they spend more and more time on digital life. In fact, a research got published last year, that was Purwar et al. It reported that 42.7% of the Indian population engages in phubbing, which is a remarkably red flag data. The objectives of my research are as follow: to identify the level of phubbing and fear of missing out, to identify the level of loneliness, relationship satisfaction, self-esteem, and resilience, to find the gender differences in terms of phubbing and fear of missing out, to find the gender differences in terms of loneliness, relationship satisfaction, self-esteem, and resilience, and finally, to see the influence of phubbing and fear of missing out on loneliness, relationship satisfaction, self-esteem, and resilience. Based on these 5 objectives, 14 hypotheses were formed, starting from there would be significant difference between boys and girls in terms of phubbing. There would be significant difference between boys and girls in terms of fear of missing out. There would be significant difference between boys and girls in terms of loneliness. Similarly, relationship satisfaction and self-esteem and resilience. Now, hypothesis number 7 is there would be positive and significant influence of phubbing on loneliness. There would be negative and significant influence of phubbing on relationship satisfaction. There would be negative and significant influence of phubbing on self-esteem, and similarly, negative and significant influence of phubbing on resilience. And finally, the last 4 hypotheses, there would be positive and significant influence of fear of missing out on loneliness, negative and significant influence of fear of missing out on relationship satisfaction, negative and significant influence of fear of missing out on self-esteem, and on resilience. Based on that, this is the research methodology. A sample size of 400 adolescents using random sampling technique were chosen for conducting this study from different schools across Bihar. The age range was 13 to 18 years, and among them 200 were boys and 200 were girls. Cross-sectional research design was used for this, and for that purpose of time, survey method was utilized, in which the standardized questionnaires were administered to obtain information on the study variables. Primarily, there were 6 research tools, starting from generic scale of phubbing, which is a new one, fear of missing out scale, perceived loneliness scale, relationship assessment scale, Rosenberg self-esteem scale, resilience scale, and apart from that, a personal data sheet. Let's have a look on all these scales. Generic scale of phubbing, as I mentioned, it's quite new, and a lot of researches have been happening on this topic for a decade. So it is primarily designed for assessing phubbing. It's a 15-item scale based on a 4-factor model, and there are 4 factors starting from nomophobia, interpersonal conflict, self-isolation, and problem acknowledgement. This response format is like that Likert scale, which starts from 1 for never and 7 for always. It's the total score range is 15 to 105, which is having a high reliability. This test is having a high reliability. Similarly, fear of missing out scale, which is there for assessing fear of missing out, that is FOMO. It's a 1-factor 10-item scale, and it is 5-point Likert scale, in which 1 stands for not at all true and 5 stands for absolutely true. The higher score, the reliability is higher as it is. The next one is perceived loneliness scale, which is an old one. So my study comprises the scales which are old and new. So it's a great combination of experience and new knowledge. So it is designed to assess perceived loneliness. In this, there are 36 items. It's a 36-item self-report measure, and it's a 5-point Likert scale. 1 stands for fully agree, and 5 stands for fully disagree. Similarly, relationship assessment scale, which has been developed by SS Henrik. It's a 7-item self-report scale in which has 5-point Likert. So 1 stands for low satisfaction and 5 for high satisfaction. Again, it is having the higher reliability. The second last is Rosenberg self-esteem scale, which is a 10-item unidimensional scale, which is divided into 4-point Likert scale. So the responses range from strongly agree to strongly disagree. And the last but not the least is the resilience scale, which is basically a 30 items in which 26 positive items are there and 4 negative items are there, which are there in 4 different dimensions: perseverance, composure, self-reliance, and faith. It's a 5-point Likert scale, which begins from strongly agree and finally strongly disagree. Along with these 6 scales, a personal data sheet was used to collect the demographic details such as age, gender, locality, etc. The process of data collection, as I mentioned earlier, that it's been done across different schools from Bihar, and schools were primarily English medium schools only. So rapport establishment was done, and participants were requested to respond honestly and genuinely. If there was any kind of doubt, all the clarifications were already done. Ethical consideration were taken into account. Informed consent. All the participants were told what are the objectives of the particular studies, and after conducting the survey, debriefing was also done, and no doubt confidentiality of the data is maintained too. Based on the obtained data, the analysis have been done using the following statistical techniques such as mean, standard deviation, t-test, regression analysis, and Pearson correlation. So based on that, I'll directly come on the result and interpretation. This is table number 1, which talks about mean scores of boy and girl adolescents on the measure of phubbing, which simply depicts that the mean of boys is 62.42, while the mean of girls is 74.39. The girls have shown higher mean in comparison with boys, which shows them to be higher in terms of phubbing. There is significant difference found between these 2 groups on the scale of phubbing, which supports the first hypothesis of the study, that is, there would be significant difference between boys and girls in terms of phubbing. In the next slide, I have taken into account the previous researches and established the consideration of the first hypothesis. It's been proven by the research of Ansari, that is 2016, Escalera Chavez 2020, which he conducted in Mexico. And all the research which I found in this regard, they also complement what is the reality of the first hypothesis. Now this is table 2, which definitely talks about the different dimensions of phubbing scale, that is nomophobia, interpersonal conflict, self-isolation, and problem acknowledgement. If we go through it, we find that it's a comparative analysis of mean scores of boys and girls across 4 dimensions. Results simply indicate significant gender difference on all 4 dimensions. Okay, we find that there is a strong role of gender in shaping phubbing behavior. Girls have scored higher on nomophobia, interpersonal conflict, and problem acknowledgement, and boys have scored higher in terms of self-isolation. So it suggests a greater vulnerability to smartphone-related behavior. Now, this has been complemented using different historical researches which have happened in this regard. We know that higher nomophobia among girls lead to increased dependence on phones and greater involvement in phubbing during social interactions. Boys scored higher on self-isolation, which is the only exception, which reflects withdrawal tendencies arising from unresolved interpersonal issues. Self-isolation among boys may stem from difficulties in managing social interactions disrupted by phubbing. And we know that phubbing hinders effective interpersonal communication for both genders, either it's boys and or girls. A research of which published 8 years back, that was Blushino et al., it found that Facebook intrusion can also contribute to phubbing tendencies. Now we know that these findings support the multi-dimensional nature of phubbing influenced by smartphone addiction and nomophobia. And we know that phubbing generates conflict for both victim, that means the person being phubbed, and the phubber, the person who is doing phubbing. And repeated conflict may result in problem acknowledgement, emotional distancing, and isolation or loneliness. This is table 3, which talks about the mean scores of boys and girls, adolescents on the measure of fear of missing out. And here we find the similar pattern with what we had found in the scale of phubbing. It simply talks about that boys obtained a mean score of 28.32, whereas girls scored significantly higher with a mean of 35.47. This indicates that girls experience a higher level of FOMO, that is the abbreviation of fear of missing out, compared to boys. Higher scores among girls suggest increased sensitivity to social inclusion, being left out in social situations. The statistically significant difference between the two groups support the second hypothesis of the study, that is, there would be a significant difference between boys and girls in terms of fear of missing out. The same hypothesis has been complemented using the following researches. Table 4 talks about the mean scores of boy and girl adolescents on loneliness, which is our next psychological attribute. And we find that both boys and girls exhibit level of loneliness that are above the average range of the scale. However, girls have obtained a higher mean score, that is 94.57, compared to boys, that is 88.92. It suggests that girls experience relatively greater loneliness than boys. The obtained t-value is statistically significant. It confirms that the difference between two groups is meaningful, and it's not just by fluke or due to any chance. Okay, which suggests our third hypothesis, that is, there would be a significant difference between boys and girls in terms of loneliness. And this hypothesis has been furthered, it has been explained and discussed further, which has been supported by the historical researches. Now, table 5, which talks about the mean scores of boy and girl adolescents on the measure of relationship satisfaction. This table indicate that boys reported a higher mean score than girls, suggesting that boys experience greater relationship satisfaction. This difference between the two groups is statistically significant, as it is being reflected by the T ratio, which supports our fourth hypothesis, that is, there would be significant difference between boys and girls in terms of relationship satisfaction. Now, the same has been supported by historical researches and further discussions. Table number 6, mean scores of boy and girl adolescents on the measure of self-esteem. This simply indicates a clear and significant difference between the two groups, with boys reporting a higher self-esteem than girls. This outcome supports the fifth hypothesis of the study, which stated that there would be significant difference between boys and girls in terms of self-esteem. Again, this hypothesis has been further elaborated, further discussed and explained. Also, it has been supported by historical research in this regard. Now, this is table number 7, which talks about mean score of boys and girls and adolescents on the measure of resilience. We find that boys obtained a mean score of 98.31, whereas girls scored higher with a mean of 110.18. It indicates an overall average level of resilience in both groups. The standard deviations for boys and girls were 12.56 and 16.84 respectively. These findings suggest that gender plays an important role in shaping resilience among adolescents, and provides support for the sixth hypothesis of the study, that is, there would be significant difference between boys and girls in terms of resilience. Now the same has been further discussed and elaborated with the help of the historical researches in this regard. Now table number 8, it talks about the mean, standard deviation and correlational coefficients among variables, in which all these psychological attributes have been listed out with a great descriptive statistical comparison. That is phubbing, fear of missing out, loneliness, relationship satisfaction, self-esteem, and resilience. If we go through it, it reveals the interrelations among all these 6 psychological attributes. It shows that all the variables are significantly correlated, and once one goes up, it influences the next one, either positively or negatively, indicating meaningful associations across all the psychological constructs. These correlations provide empirical support for hypothesis 7 to 14 of the study. The same further has been elaborated, which I want to read. Phubbing shows a positive correlation with loneliness, indicating that adolescents who phub are more likely to feel lonely. Loneliness, whereas significantly contributes to phubbing, it reinforces a cycle of social withdrawal. That means phubbing, it leads to loneliness. Loneliness leads to phubbing, and then this cycle of social withdrawal keeps on continuing. Bernard also found that FOMO and loneliness are positively correlated. It supports the present finding. We know that phubbing is negatively correlated with relationship satisfaction. That means if the scale of phubbing goes up, the scale of relationship satisfaction goes down. Then Yaqub, Umari, and Rushandi, they all have found that phubbing reduces relationship satisfaction, aligning with current results, the same thing which we have discussed in the table number 8. Similarly, Kofila very recently noted that adolescents' attachment to Instagram features reduces control over phone use, increasing isolation and phubbing. There are so many researchers in this regard, further which confirm that if the phubbing is higher, if the score on phubbing is higher, loneliness, relationship satisfaction, self-esteem, all of them go down. Table number 9, it talks about the regression analysis using phubbing as predictor variable and loneliness as criterion variable. And we find that phubbing emerges as a significant positive predictor of loneliness among the adolescents. The same thing has been confirmed in the previous discussion also. The table explains 12.9% of the variance in loneliness, suggesting that higher engagement in phubbing is associated with increased feeling of loneliness. The obtained F ratio is statistically significant. Thereby, the 7th hypothesis of the study is supported, that is, there would be a positive and significant influence of phubbing on loneliness. Further, it has been elaborated and discussed and supported by historical. Of relationship satisfaction. It talks about 14.5% variance. This suggests that adolescents who engage more frequently in phubbing tend to experience lower levels of relationship satisfaction, as this behavior distracts them from meaningful social interaction. If there is no meaningful social interaction, if there is no point of actual relationship satisfaction. These findings support the 8th hypothesis of the the regression analysis using phubbing as predictor variable and self-esteem as criterion variable.
हेलो, हाँ जी, am I audible? क्या मेरी आवाज आ रही है वहां पे? हेलो, हाँ जी, क्या मैं कनेक्टेड हूँ? Am I audible? क्या मेरी आवाज आ रही है वहां पे? हेलो, हेलो, हाँ जी, क्या मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
हाँ, तो आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही, दोस्त आपकी आवाज बीच में क्यों कट रही है? कैंडिडेट की आवाज
Is it fine, sir, now?
हाँ, बोलिएगा, दोबारा बोलिएगा प्लीज जरा।
Should I continue, sir?
हाँ जी, प्लीज कंटिन्यू करें।
Ji, thank you so much. So table 1, the data, the analysis, the interpretation of table 1 support the ninth hypothesis of the study, which stated that there would be negative and significant influence of phubbing on self-esteem, which has been further discussed, elaborated, and supported by historical researches, which are really new in this regard. Table number 12 talks about the regression analysis using phubbing as predictor variable and resilience as criterion variable. And we find that it serves as a significant negative predictor of resilience, accounting for 9.7% of the total variance. It is statistically significant. It confirms that phubbing has a meaningful impact on adolescents' level of resilience. These findings substantiate the 10th hypothesis of my study, that is, there would be negative and significant influence of phubbing on resilience. Further, it has been elaborated and supported by historical researches. Table 13 talks about the regression analysis showing influence of fear of missing out on loneliness. Till now, we had been discussing the influence of phubbing on the different psychological attributes. Now we are talking about the influence of fear of missing out on the different psychological attributes. And here we find that FOMO is a significant positive predictor of loneliness. This table explains 17.6% of the variance in loneliness. It demonstrates that adolescents who experience higher level of FOMO, they are more likely to feel lonely. Positive and significant influence of fear of missing out on loneliness. One level, it further confirms the robustness, the clarity of the hypothesis, which supports the 12th hypothesis of the study, that is, there would be negative and significant influence of fear of missing out on relationship satisfaction. Further, it has been elaborated, discussed, and supported by various psychological theories and various studies. Table 15 talks about the regression analysis showing influence of fear of missing out on self-esteem. Here we find that FOMO is a significant negative predictor of self-esteem, accounting for 27% of total variance. It suggests that adolescents, it directly influences the resilience of the adolescent. The significant F value confirms that resilience is meaningfully influenced by FOMO, which finally support the 14th hypothesis of the study, that is, there would be negative and significant influence of fear of missing out on resilience. Again, this interpretation has been further supported by the historical researches which have happened in this regard. Now, the conclusion of my study is that it reveals that phubbing is highly prevalent among adolescents, and it has emerged as a serious behavioral concern. It has also social and emotional changes. We have found the gender differences. It was very clear. We have found that girls exhibited higher level of phubbing compared to boys. Girls also reported greater fear of missing out and higher loneliness, whereas boys demonstrated higher relationship satisfaction and greater self-esteem in my study. Interestingly, girls were found to be more resilient than boys. The results further indicate that phubbing serves as a significant positive predictor for loneliness and is a significant negative predictor of relationship satisfaction, self-esteem, and resilience. Similarly, Fear of missing out was identified as a significant positive predictor of loneliness and a significant negative predictor of relationship satisfaction, self-esteem, and resilience. Overall, strong and significant associations were observed between phobbing and FOMO, with all major psychological variables which have been studied in my research. Those are loneliness, relationship satisfaction, self-esteem, and resilience. The limitations of my study. Indeed, in the process of this study, I have realized this, that knowledge indeed is knowing how much I don't know. That is the true meaning of knowledge. And I know that whatever I have done, that is not just a drop of the ocean of knowledge in this world. That's why there are so many limitations in my study, and I believe that if there are limitations, then only the prospect for future research may develop. Right? I believe that the present research has successfully achieved all its objectives and provided a detailed understanding of phobbing and its related factors. Among adolescents in Bihar, certain limitations should be acknowledged. The first one is that my study examined only the influence of gender on phobbing, fear of missing out, loneliness, relationship satisfaction, self-esteem, and resilience. More variables can also be examined. The data were collected exclusively from school students studying in English medium schools, which may limit the generalization of the results. The age group of the participants were restricted to adolescents, that is 13 to 18 years of age, since this is a developmental period in which relationships and emotional experiences are constantly changing. The nature of the variables studied may vary over time, it may change. These limitations highlight areas that future research can address for a more comprehensive understanding. Directions for future research, which I have realized and I have thought of, because it was based upon cross-sectional design, the study of variables has been limited. Further studies may use factorial or experimental designs to explore both main and interaction effects of variables. There was only one independent variable in the study, that is gender. Additional psychological, social, and technological factors can be included as independent variables nowadays. Many people are discussing about digital burdening, digital detox. Such kind of technological factors do influence the psychological well-being of adolescent and different age groups. So there is a great prospect in this regard. Research may be extended to diverse populations such as adults and older individuals. Larger sample size always are recommended for broader generalization.
And social development also. I mean, it's not a very old concept. As I mentioned in my discussion, in my presentation, that the word has been coined.
Thank you so much. So, as I was mentioning, that phobbing is a new term, a new concept. This is one of the reasons why I chose it. Okay, and also we know that. Okay, and also we know that there was a research gap in this regard. So I felt that it was the right time to explore this emerging issue for academic purposes, but for a greater this particular regard. So that's why I chose this topic.
When you were doing the review of literature regarding to your topic, have you found anything related to the old age persons? Related to your variables?
Related to, you're talking about old age persons, right, sir?
Actually,
right, sir. Interesting. It's a common notion that phobbing is harmful for everybody. But it's a matter of fact, and I have gone through some of the articles which suggest that phobbing, if we leave the greater psychological components, at times it has been found in greater adjustment for the people of old age, like a lot of old age people who have been socially isolated, who have not been taken care properly by their children in case they have the phone in their hand and they start explore this particular variable more and more, this age group more and more, and will develop my
What type of suggestions you want to give to policymakers related to your findings? Policymakers, like bureaucrats or the chief minister of the state. Do you have any suggestions for them?
Indeed, sir. Indeed, sir. See, we know that we are living in the third decade of 21st century, and India, statistically, more than 90 crore digital smartphone connections are there in India, right? I believe that not everybody is having a phone, because I have been to so many rural places. I have seen that not everybody has a smartphone, but it's a matter of fact that more than 90 crore connections are there in India. And a significant population engages a lot of time in digital behavior, right? And digital toxication is the reality of nowadays, where a lot of data uses, a lot of screen time, they all do influence the mental well-being of people. I have focused upon adolescents in my study, but I believe that almost all the age groups are influenced by it. My suggestions to the policymaker will be very simple, feasible, practical, that firstly, a holistic data should be prepared so that we get to know what kind of problems are happening. In case of it's a problem which we found in my research that yes, it is happening. So a proper data should be prepared. Based on that, the intervention model should be prepared point of view. Right now, a lot of drives are happening across the globe. And some of the drives are happening in our country also, which talk about digital detox. But most of the times, these intervention techniques are limited to conference and seminar halls only. In reality, if both of the parents are working and they want to spend some time in, they want to do the office work in home, at times, I'm not saying it happens in every situation, but a significant amount of people, like they provide a smartphone to the small child who starts engaging in phubbing behavior. Now, I'm not saying that snatch the phone from the child, but yes, we do have to develop a mechanism through which we can provide help to everybody. So, to policymakers, to CM, Chief Minister or Prime Minister, or the political or administrative framework, my suggestions would be, firstly, preparing the data. Based on that, preparing the intervention module. Third, spreading awareness to each and every people, each and every person, what are the side effects, what are the bad outcomes of all these things. And next, we need to create a functional psychological framework in which if a person who is having a kind of gaming addiction or a kind of phubbing behavior, which is very much compulsive now, can be provided relevant and necessary help. So,
hey, it's okay. You have done quite good research work. So, what are your future plans after that? Now, do you doing any kind of job presently? Are you doing any kind of job presently?
So, as I mentioned that after submitting this thesis, since this is quite interesting topic and it is very much socially and technologically relevant, I plan to continue working in the area of adolescent digital behavior along with teaching. I want to extend this research by including other variables such as stress, anxiety, depression, peer influence, parenting style, and so on. I am also interested in developing intervention model, which I mentioned a few minutes back, that I don't want to be limited only in academic discussion, but I want to do something concrete, which actually can provide help to the adolescents and to different age groups. Then another area I wish to explore is that the parent-child digital behavior. Nowadays, a lot of terms are prevailing in the psychological horizon, right? And I want to explore them. I want to understand and implement those learnings in my future, not personally, but in a greater social framework. I plan to publish research papers based on my findings and collaborate with different schools, different organizations, maybe NGOs, some counselors and mental health professionals. Ultimately, my long-term goal is to contribute towards creating a structured digital well-being model that can help the youth, and I should also include the adults, like not the young age population, but also the adult population, so that we can navigate technology in a healthier way, in a balanced way, so that technology becomes a boon for all of us, not a curse, as unfortunately it is happening in so many places. So,
ठीक है दोस्त सुनील, it's quite good to interact with you. I have enjoyed a lot your this presentation. Now I am recommending from my side that you must be awarded with the PhD, and I must congratulate you from my side. So now over to Chairperson sir, Dr. Sunil Kumar sir. Okay. Now over to Chairperson sir. ये आजकल बच्चे काफी आतिशबाजी चलाते हैं।
धन्यवाद सर, नमस्कार।
अच्छा काम करवाया सर, आप लोगों ने सभी ने मिलके अच्छा काम करवाया है। जस्ट कि हम सभी मिलजुल के
और कुछ?
इट्स ओके सर। अच्छा,
धन्यवाद धन्यवाद।
अच्छा काम।
अब ये डॉक्टर राकेश कुमार ने, डॉक्टर सुनील कुमार आज से ये हो गए। धन्यवाद।
चलिए ठीक है सर, थैंक यू।
ठीक ठीक, नमस्कार।
Congratulations, Sunil.
thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. At times,
आपके सुपरवाइजर को भी बहुत बहुत
मुबारकबाद। Thank you so much, sir.
जाफरी साहब को भी बहुत बहुत मुबारकबाद, बहुत अच्छा काम करवाया है और बहुत अच्छा प्रेजेंटेशन हुआ और फर्स्ट PhD उनका है।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया सर, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया सर।
विभाग की ओर से आपका भी धन्यवाद सर।
नहीं ठीक है, हम तो रास्ते से जुड़े हुए हैं, क्या करें, अभी पहुंचे हैं। हाँ
खैर,
चलिए ठीक है, आपको भी बधाई।
धन्यवाद।
ठीक, ओके,
ठीक जी, प्रणाम सर।
प्रणाम।